What is Neon Odyssey? That's a great question. Neon Odyssey is our space opera science fantasy supplement to Dungeons & Dragons 5.5 edition.
It is a 3-book, 1,400-page setting, all sorts of tools that you need to run whatever you're looking to do in this setting. And it's our second Kickstarter. It is our second big project from Adventures Entertainment.
What made you decide to go towards a sci-fi fantasy setting?
I think that space opera was the obvious next choice after Crooked Moon. We've seen since we've announced that people have been craving science fantasy, science fiction, space opera in their D&D games. And I think that with kind of the time and where everyone is right now, having bright colors, nostalgia, being able to blast off to the stars and having a setting that's full of hope and optimism and fun, even when there are like dark things and monsters, I think it's very much needed right now.
We spent so many years doing folk horror. And so when we're finished with that, we're looking forward to what we're doing next, and what better way than to go into something like Neon Odyssey, which is science fantasy and all about hope and all about the unbreakable spirit that's inside all of us and what we can do across a galaxy. And it was just a beautiful transition from where we were with Crooked Moon into where we want to go.
We've said forever, we always want to play at the table the stories that we want to tell, and we kind of realized that the tools to tell the kind of story that we wanted to tell just weren't really there. And we knew all these things from our childhood that we absolutely loved, that we wanted to draw on, that we wanted to bring into the game. And we were like, hey, I think we can do that.
I think once we figured out that the hook and the keystone of Neon Odyssey would be the nostalgia of that time period from like 1977 to 2004, that would be the really strong hook. That was where I was all in, and where I didn't want to just be another sci-fi setting that's just spaceships and laser beams and alien worlds. We needed to have something that made it unique and distinct. You know, I mean, if you look at the logo, right? The extremely nostalgic vibe that marries the sci-fi vibes. That was when I knew immediately that was gonna be our next project. And it ended up being 1 book and then 2 books and then 3 books. And I'm like, man, I wish we had 5, 6, 7, 8.
You know, it was sort of a painful process of aligning on those 1,400-ish pages. If you think about just the vast amount of content that's going to be in these books, from class skins, brand new class, subclasses, species, backgrounds, professions, all the monsters, all the vehicles, all the missions, all the world setting information, realms, there's so much that we just couldn't get it done in less than 1,400. And, you know, we already got ideas for, this is not a commitment, this is not a promise, but we've already got ideas for books 4, 5, and 6. So, stay tuned. Not a promise. But
Do you create different sci-fi versions of all the classes, and then you add another one on top of everything else? Like, how did you go about translating that?
you know, the first thing we thought of, right, is what are the classic archetypes or tropes in sci-fi that an outrunner, which is like an adventurer in our setting, would want to fulfill? And I think the classic example is the rogue. The rogue in a dashing rogue sense kind of fits, right? But rogue in terms of a class, you think of cloak and dagger, you think of assassin and poisons. But in sci-fi, you want to be Han Solo, right? So making it the scoundrel just made sense. Another example is the ranger we're calling the tracer. This is the bounty hunteriest bounty hunter class in the game. You know, the D&D ranger does a great job selling that kind of Aragorn flavor of you're hunting through the wilderness and trying to seek out great beasts, but really selling the tracer as someone who hunts not just in the wilderness, but even in the urban jungle, or trying to track down a bounty, or still hunt a giant alien creature.
And for those at home, like, to be very clear, like, these classes, these are not just name changes. The mechanics are different.
Yeah, and so, you know, we're calling them class skins because a lot of it we wanted to make sure that it was very accessible. But once again, we never wanted to have just a paladin in space or a wizard in space. And so we went through each of the classes, as Richie said, and we wanted to make sure that we were hitting a fantasy that was appropriate for a science fantasy setting. Sometimes that requires mechanical changes and tweaks. For instance, our version of the Sorcerer, which is the Esper, all of them are psionic. And so there are things that, when it comes to spellcasting components, that inherently has to change to make it act like a Scion. Also, one of the big things for the Esper and the Cryptus, which is our version of the Warlock, is that you can choose between charisma and intelligence. That said, we wanted to make sure that the changes weren't so drastic that if you picked up Neon Odyssey and you played a Cryptis, that you would have no idea, wait a minute, this isn't familiar to me. It should still feel familiar to all of the base classes of D&D 5.5. One change also that I love is our Juggernaut. The Juggernaut is our version of the Barbarian, and in a setting where people have laser guns and laser weapons that deal radiant damage, or you can go and buy fire grenades that deal fire damage a lot easier than it is in a medieval fantasy setting, we had to be able to change rage, which we're calling Surge, to be able to deal with that. So when you activate your Surge, you just choose 3 damage types. And it's not all of them, you can't be resistant to force, but you can choose Radiant in that. You can choose Lightning, which is our plasma damage is lightning damage. It adds a bit more strategic and thought work into the Barbarian chassis, which as someone who plays a Barbarian regularly, I'm very excited about.
Is there a class, a subclass, a faction that you enjoy the most? And you've been playing it actively, so you've been like
You've been playing
playtesting
for a
it
while,
live.
yeah.
Yeah, I will say it's really hard to pick a singular favorite thing, right? Everything that we've been doing, especially with all of the new flavors of our campaigns that we've done, where we've kind of Neon Odyssey-ified all of the stuff that we do, it's very hard to pick a single favorite thing. But what I will say is that it is no secret that I am a massive Cowboy Bebop fan. And I think when I started setting out to play D&D, I wanted to play some sort of a Spike Spiegel character. And I definitely did not have the tools at the time. And now my favorite character that I play, Pike Starfall, he's a disciple, which is our version of the monk. He just feels like he is this, karate master. He goes with the flow. He is cool. He fits the setting of this beautiful space adventure as a bounty hunter. And I get to live the fantasy that I've always wanted to because of tools that we've created as publishers. And it's just the coolest thing for me.
Beyond like kind of having your own take on every class in D&D, you also have the Machinist.
Yeah, I mean, I think, for me, having a tech class was a no-brainer. You could definitely call it the spiritual successor to the Artificer in this setting. But, we wanted to make it a brand new and fresh feeling class. And our lead game designer, Dan Dillon, I just knew could absolutely nail a Technomancer in the style and flavor that would really sell this setting. It's one of my personal favorite archetypes of all time, and I've played the Artificer before. I played a lot of variations of that kind of Technomancer. The most important thing that we wanted to communicate is that the Machinist was the hardware version and kind of counterpart to the Grid Runner, which was the software kind of flavored class. And so it wasn't just all tech wholesale. It was very much the Machinists are the ones that are building things and very, very real physical things. They're not necessarily coding in computers. That's what the Grid Runner's doing.
Now, going beyond class, then you have all these opportunities with the subclasses to make things even more unique. So where you have some necessary changes to classes themselves, we've got brand new subclasses flat out.
Yeah, and we knew that in order to fill a galaxy, to fill a setting as huge as the Stardust Rhapsody, the setting of Neon Odyssey, we knew that we wanted people to be able to play campaigns for years and feel like they can hit their player fantasies. So that's how we landed on 52 subclasses. We knew that we had to have 4 subclasses for every single class, and I think that is probably one of the most fun things that we've done, was aligning on and finalizing that final list of 52 and just the design work. We have a big team of designers led by Dan Dillon, and working with them to bring this huge number of flavors and themes has been an unbelievable joy. And one of my favorite things in our Neon Odyssey Discord server is seeing people, I want to play a character that's kind of like this. I'm like, we have a subclass for that. Oh, I want to play a character that's kind of like this. I don't know if I can. We have a subclass for that. And I haven't really seen any character concepts where we haven't had a subclass for that player fantasy. And sometimes you need to do a little bit of creative retheming depending on how out there and bizarre or specific your idea is. But I think across all 52 of these, we really hit a lot of fantasies and check a lot of boxes across the space opera genre.
I've gotten to taste a number of different subclasses on and off the screen, and I have to say far and away the hypercoder, the grid runner hypercoder that I get to play with Ziggy is not just my favorite subclass in Neon Odyssey, but perhaps my favorite subclass ever. It is so fun. I get to live the fantasy of being a hacker, and that comes sort of in the toolkit of being a grid runner in general. There are a lot of ways that you're going to be able to interface with computers and technology and the software, but the hypercoder gives you this flexibility to twist spells, changing their shape, to use your reaction to take away a resistance, for example. These little ways that I'm hacking the code of the spell is both simple and elegant because it interfaces with every thing that we're putting into the book, certainly, but everything that already pre-exists in Dungeons & Dragons in the first place. I'm just talking about combat right now. There are other social features that I also enjoy very much in terms of the subclass, but that has been an endless fountain of joy for me. It's such a fun subclass.
A lot of people have some things to say about the Ranger in Dungeons and Dragons, and I've had the I've had the opportunity to play one myself in classic fantasy Dungeons and Dragons. And what I will say, not only about the Stardust Human, but about the Tracer, which is our version of the Ranger, is that it is some of the most fun I've had at the table. I genuinely feel like what we have done with both the Tracer and the X-Agent allows me to live a fantasy that is not possible in fantasy D&D. But you would generally think, oh, I'm playing a human, and I think there's this kind of misconception that playing a human character is the boring thing to pick, or you do it for stat purposes, etc. But what we've done with Stardust Human is we've made them feel special, and we've made them feel like the touch of the cosmic stardust out there has infused you with just a little bit of magic.
I'm so glad you're saying this.
Which is so,
I'm so glad.
Cool to play.
It's shocking, but I actually, I know that the favorite species question is coming. And I look at the Stardust Human and I go, wow, even the human is
Really
excellent. Cool. And that
really
is wild. And very much thanks to the incredible designers that we have, especially Dan.
Oh yeah, huge thanks to Dan.
You're the lead designer on all of
Yes.
this, and you also have like a crew of designers that are like crunching away at this.
Yeah, we're working with some really fantastic freelance game designers who are working on a lot of these things with us, a lot of subclasses, a lot of monsters, world gazetteer write-ups, all realms, all kinds of cool stuff. We're working with people like Brandis Stoddard, Eugenio Vargas, Sarah Madsen, Emmelwind, who's done a lot of work for people like Griffin Saddlebag, Loot Tavern.
It's amazing.
Tamor Raymond, old Wizards colleague of mine, so it's fantastic to get to work with Tamor again.
That's amazing.
And speaking of other ex-Wizards I'm working with, we also got Ari Levitch and Adam Lee working on it too with us. It's been fantastic.
It does kind of feel like the band got back together to make this.
One of the very best things about Wizards in general is the people that you get to work with. And so when I found out that Dan Dillon's there, and now I get to see your face again, and there are some other awesome little players that we've seen here and there, it's like coming home again. I learned a lot working at Wizards, and now I get to put that into a different practice, get to flex some different muscles, and then teach what I know too, which is pretty dope.
Is there an element that you've enjoyed the most about it? Just like the setting, the art?
I have recovered a lot of lost memories, as it were, as we're making different things. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love that. We should totally lean on that. And luckily, Mikey and Richie and everybody that we're working with has been just enthusiastic. Yes, this sounds amazing.
There are certain tropes that we kind of like to have, like, you know, laser guns that go pew and stuff like that. But like, you know, like people like space combat. People want to race. People want to become bounty hunters. And you all kind of came together and gave systems for that, correct?
We really wanted space combat. We really wanted to be able to race. Racing is super fun in the games. The gambling system, the bounty system, right? We want this world to feel highly lived in. So much of this is sort of like your identity inside of this universe.
Do you have a species that you both like, or a couple of species that like are your favorite?
I mentioned the Stardust Human as being one of my favorites just because
Oddly, one of my favorites.
it just hits the nail right on the head. And I know that Claude Darren is a very popular option. I have a special place in my heart for the Nematoan and the Ammonite. The Nematoan is your classic alien guy. 4 arms, weird eyes, strange scaly or marbled skin, and the Ammonite is our sort of mushroom-esque type person. And I was able to play sort of a buddy duo with Glup Bondo and Quibbly, 2 characters that kicked off our first season of Stardust Rhapsody Anthem, and both of them absolutely shone.
And I feel like I have to just reiterate that the Stardust Human is fantastic. So obviously Globulin's my favorite. It's going to be my favorite of all time. I love short, spunky characters. That's always been one of my favorites, and Globulin really hits that out of the park on all aspects. But I have always tended to be, when playing any game, whether it's a TTRPG or an MMORPG, I've never gravitated towards human. I've always, and I hate to say this, literally no wrong fun, but I've always found them to be boring. But the Stardust Human is so fun, and I will say, when it was originally pitched to me to play it for Voidbound, I was like, oh man, everyone else gets to play cool, fun stuff, and I gotta be the human. And now that I'm playing it, I'm like, well, I'm the lucky one, because I get to play this fantastic species. But if I'm not going to pick that, which I probably shouldn't, I think my other favorite one would be Poggle. Because once again, spunky little creatures, but Poggles are so interesting, and their luck capabilities fit so well with it. I would destroy the world for a Poggle.
I know. Speaking of destroying the world for a species, I have to give a special shout out to both the Solari and the Nulari.
I was intentionally not saying the Nulari.
This is our equivalent of our elves in the setting, and I think that we've done a good job making them feel like they belong in the setting. That we're not just again plopping elves into this into the world just because we have to have elves. No, they have earned their place in the Rhapsody and
in my heart,
and very much in Nikki's heart.
Yeah, no, the Nulari are our shadow daddies, and they're perfect, and they did nothing wrong.
Exactly correct.
I gotta talk about the Rhizo. They're from this planet, Goro, and Goro's kind of this like stormy world. And in Neon Odyssey, all of the planets at their core have what we call kind of like a world soul. And every species is kind of originated from a planet. And now species are all over the place, right? You can find anybody anywhere, but they kind of have these ties to their home worlds. They have this resonance with the souls, and that kind of mechanically shows up in the species by giving them aspects, right? And so the Rhizo are these kind of like Oni-inspired, like, you know, kind of big, horned. A lot of them have tattoos, and they resonate with this like storming soul that does a ton of cool, like, you know, you can manipulate, kind of like manipulate weather. You can summon thunder, lightning. You do all this cool mechanical stuff. Claude Darren is another one that is our cat person species. Absolutely phenomenal. That shows up in Waltz. Mikey plays a character, Milo.
When he did the crit thing.
Oh yeah, when he did the crit, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah,
It's like,
he used the feature that let him get a higher chance to get a crit.
Yeah.
And like everybody knows, when you get the crit, it feels so good, right? And
yeah.
I saw him do that, and immediately I was like, why am I not playing a Claude
Yeah,
Darren?
no, 100%. Claude Darren have a mechanical ability that reads, I would like to win.
Yeah, I would love to win the game right now.
And the last one I'll call out, we've also been playing this, and I'm having so much fun with this species. And I think this really kind of goes to an earlier point of how you can play just this one species and get so many different flavors out of it, is the Bitlink.
Oh, good call.
Which is kind of our like old school video game inspired. It's like our
animal mascot.
It's our animal mascot video game. You know, like your Rayman, your
Crash Bandicoot, your Banjo-Kazooie,
Sonic. You know, and they could take on kind of the animalistic forms, and all of their attributes are very like video game-esque, right? So I get, whenever a creature dies around me, I can pick up a token.
Yeah.
I can pick up a video game token that I kind of keep in a stash, and then I can expend them to drop things like checkpoints, to do other things, to kind of, you know, just mechanically enact these kind of like, you know, your classic super video game kind of power-ups. And they come in 3 prime pillars, right? Strength, speed, and flight. And that shows up in a whole bunch of cool different ways. But we're playing a campaign right now where, and this is why I say it, where every single one of us is playing a Bitlink, and it's all so different. You know, obviously look totally different, the flavors are totally different, the species mechanics are obviously all there and unified, but it's just the kind of adventure you get out of it is so crazy. So that's one of my absolute favorites.
So there are professions in this.
Professions, yeah, professions is a new optional system we're adding. So there are a lot of games where you have to kind of make decisions about what you want your character to be good at. And sometimes it's like, well, I'm going to play the pilot. Okay, so you put all your character stuff into being the best at piloting, and now you suck at everything else.
Yeah.
And if you get into a gunfight, you're a liability, right? If you're not in your fighter ship, you are not helpful. That is the last thing we want here. We don't want you to have to give up your solderness to be a pilot. Right? And so that is where professions come in. Professions are these specific extra feat tracks that you don't have to spend your normal feat slots if you are opting into the profession system. At level 1, when you take a profession, you get this introductory feat. As an example, for the ace pilot, you will get to pick a class of starships to be proficient in. So maybe you're proficient with all starfighters. And then it'll give you another little benefit, like perhaps you can make your vehicle dash as a bonus action.
Okay, but they're not taking up a feat.
They are not. They are feats themselves, but they're a special track that if you opt into this system, you get in addition to standard feats.
Perfect, yeah, because you don't want people to have to choose between that and like their normal feat progression on something.
But that is another layer of complexity to bolt on if you want to opt into it. And we're aware that maybe that's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. So we are going to offer an option to where you can use normal feat slots to get some of that functionality if you don't want to use professions.
Do we have other feats as well? We've got new sci-fi.
Well, so we talked about the profession feats, but we've got origin feats, we've got general feats, we've got epic boons, we've got maybe some new fighting style feats if something from the player's handbook doesn't quite fit our guns and spaceships aesthetic.
And then on top of all this, do we have like new weapon masteries?
We do have a couple new weapon properties.
Okay.
So for instance, I think we've talked before about the powered property that's going to boost your melee weapons if you have a power cell slotted into it. You could have like a vibro blade, or maybe it charges with energy. You know, maybe you electrify your flail, or it has kind of magnetic gyros that increase its oomph when you swing it, but it takes power to do that. So we also have, for some of our ranged weapons, we have the scatter property, which is going to go along with our shotguns. Where, say, you don't want to shoot one person with your shotgun, you want to lay down some pain in a hallway, you can do that and create a cone with your shotgun. A burst for an automatic weapon where you want to,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
How do you make sci-fi spells?
They get zappy. No, they do sci-fi stuff. We have a lot of gravity spells because gravity is kind of important in space and zooming around and black holes and all that good
and
stuff.
psionically themed. I'm sure.
we have a bunch of psionically themed spells, psychic storms and what have you. A bunch more telekinetic magic,
technology, timey-wimey.
We have magic that interfaces with technology. For instance, we've introduced a second level spell called Power Sag, which creates an area where powered things brown out. They shut down. Your powered weapon doesn't work. Your computer dies. The lights shut off. If you cast it around a ship's engine, the engine cuts off.
How many spells do we know at this point? And it's probably still growing.
I mean, easily over 50, maybe all told.
Spells,
all told across both books, maybe 100-ish, maybe more.
What do you love about designing something like this? Because this, I mean, I know you have a whole massive team, but this had to be a monumental challenge.
Oh, it is, and it's ongoing.
We
are still in process.
We're probably still editing these videos, just talking about the thing that's in progress.
Yep. No, what I love about it is spells become so versatile and modular, because you can take Fireball, your classic standard iconic kaboom spell from D&D, right? Like the gold standard. How many different ways can you describe a fireball? Tons. And then when you add on, we're introducing the concept of techno magic, of this hypertech. What if my magic, as someone like a machinist or a power tech tracer, where I run my magic through my power armor, my hunter's armor, and my fireball is a wrist rocket that I fire over there and has a high explosive, right? It's still fireball, but it looks like I fired a missile and
Yeah.
nuked a bunch of people, right?
And it's really hitting home to people. You can flavor
Yeah.
things.
And we're going to have a section in the book that's like, hey, here's how we suggest modifying and flavoring and skinning your magic in a way to suit not only the genre, not only the campaign, but your specific character and how you interface with it.
Well, how does this universe work? Because there are different realms. There is a way that kind of magic works. So can you tell me a little bit more about this universe?
Basically, there's a broad galaxy. It's a single galaxy, and the way that it works is that it is surrounded by this, almost like this cocoon called Agathos, that is the realm of the stars. And all the stars that you see and all the constellations, they are all in Agathos, and that's the realm of the gods and other celestial beings that serve the gods. There are 12 gods of Agathos. They all each have their own tenets and areas that they're responsible for. And outside of that, they are basically protecting from the abyssal void. And these strange, eldritch deep sea beings called the Deep and other aberrations are in the abyssal void. And it's the barrier of the stars that protect the galaxy against that. That's really from before the galaxy was created, before the song of creation was sung, and the Stardust Rhapsody came into being. And the whole setting is very music inspired, and I think that music is such an important thing to all of us at Evantris, but also it's a really important thing, I think, to science fantasy, and Cowboy Bebop is one of our huge inspirations here. And so we are weaving that through. Our currency is called Notes. We have other realms called the Harmony and Cacophony, and the Harmony is effectively the energy of life and the cycle of life and death that connects all living things in this setting. It weaves through all things. There might be some parallels that people might draw to the Force or to the life stream from Final Fantasy VII, but it also serves as the afterlife and a spirit world. And then there's a corruption of that called Cacophony, and that's our version of hell in the lower planes. And there are 4 different tones of that. And there's Thrill, which is our demon circus. There's Entropy, which is kind of our demonic, fiendish, gothic Halloween vibes. We have Instinct, which is your classic killer bugs that are endlessly swarming like your Starship Troopers. And then we have Progress, which is our demon machines, very much akin to War of the Worlds tripods, Terminator, the Sentinels from the Matrix. All of that. And so if you want to have fiends, there's 4 different flavors that you can have, and maybe tap into the 4 different powers of the Discordant.
And I think, the goal here, right, in general was, while it's a big lift already to basically change the genre of D&D from fantasy to sci-fi, we still wanted to give folks that were familiar with D&D those familiar handholds. We need heaven, we need hell, or the upper planes and lower planes. We need the Feywild. We need to justify magic. And if technology is magic in the setting and magic is technology, then a digital realm to kind of justify that was a no-brainer. And making our version of the wizard a techno mage, the grid runner, also made sense and felt flavorful and unique to the setting. So when folks pick this up, it'll feel new, refreshing, like its own thing, but they'll still see, oh, they didn't invent a million different damage types. They didn't invent a million different creature types.
Or status effects.
Yeah, or status effects, conditions, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and you mentioned the magic of the hypergrid, which is, Derek is always saying that the galaxy came Wi-Fi enabled. So there is this digital realm that connects to all technology in the setting. It also, those who are able to code into it or hack into it can basically alter reality. And you can also visit there like you might in Tron or the Matrix, this digital world. And spun off from that, you mentioned our version of the Feywild, which is Arcadia, which is the realm of not just video games of all varieties, but also the whimsy of your Lisa Frank colorful vibes, imagination, Saturday morning cartoons, and just absolute creative absurdity and the maximalism of the time period that we're super influenced by. There's a lot more to it, but we basically had to make sure that we were able to have enough areas and themes to tap into, not just to have a variety of power sources for all of our classes and subclasses, but also just so D&D would slot into a science fantasy setting.
Perfect. And on top of all this, I'm assuming equipment, spells.
Oh, yeah.
All unique to this setting, correct?
Yeah, I mean,
Vehicles, obviously.
Oh, yeah, tons of vehicles, and making sure that you have the option to customize them. Making sure that you can make your vehicle your own. I think that's a classic fantasy of, you have Spike Spiegel and he's got the swordfish too. And it's very much his, and there's modifications that were made. And we want each group of Outrunners and each character, if they choose to have an individual starfighter or a transport that the group shares, to feel like it's their own and it feels unique compared to another campaigns or another groups.
There's a million different ways that you can have a vehicle. There's small starships, big starships. There's mechs. Everybody loves Gundam and Robotech, and we wanted to give that fantasy as well. There's transports, there's race cars, there's motorcycles, and all of these sort of modern or sci-fi vehicles we wanted to let players be able to interact with. But then once you have those vehicles and you're upgrading them, you're adding weapons to them, you need vehicles to encounter and fight. We're going to have vehicles across all 3 books, and I think once all is said and done, we'll have anywhere between 200, 300, if not more, vehicles from on the player and GM side to explore.
You can't have a sci-fi setting without a bunch of tech equipment, and honestly kind of overhauling the weapon system for D&D 5.5 and adding strength-based guns and range weapons, things like that, and figuring out what are the fantasies that we are missing that aren't covered by 5.5 that we need to add, and what are all of the tropes across sci-fi for all the different gun types and all the different sci-fi weapon types. Can we make sure that those are represented either through basic weapons or basic weapon types? Or if it's something that's really specific, we have to have a magic item that at least allows you to hit that fantasy.
So you have vehicles as essentially monsters. On top of that, lots of other monsters.
We have more than 200 of them. And, like I said, we need to account for all of the creature types that's in Dungeons & Dragons, and all of those are represented in our bestiary. And we're hitting a lot of tropes. We wear our influences on our sleeve. And so if you want to fight an evil animatronic in an abandoned pizza place, you can do that. And we wanted to make sure that Crooked Moon was so heavily rooted in the singular narrative adventure campaign, the adventure path, that so much of it was tailored to that singular experience. We wanted to have basically have our bestiary be a toolbox where you could customize and pick and choose cafeteria style to have an endless number of adventures that cover the widest variety of space opera adventures.
It was wild how well the Crooked Moon did. And this is 3 entire books now.
Yeah.
It feels like you've just kind of upped the ante.
Yeah, we, as a group of friends and as Adventurous Entertainment, we always say we don't know how to half-ass anything. We can only whole-ass everything. And so, while that's kind of a jokey thing to say, the truth behind the matter is that we want to deliver the highest quality product we possibly can. We want people to hold a book, open it, and be like, man, this is the coolest thing I've ever read, and I can't wait to play it, and I have so much fun with it, because it fills some niche that I didn't have access to, whether it's folk horror, which we felt was very underserved, or whether it's science fantasy, which we also feel like doesn't have the flavor that we personally were looking for. With how wildly successful the Crooked Moon was, we're not going to rest on our laurels. It's just now we can go beyond. We just have to keep pushing. I believed then, and I believe now, that when the project funds, when we are able to deliver these books sometime in the future, that people are going to hold them and feel something very, very special. At least I genuinely believe that in my heart.
I think it's very easy to say. We've said this on stream. This is not a secret. But we make the products that we want, and we always look to deliver on executing that vibe as absolutely immaculately as we can, right? We're very proud of the Crooked Moon, and obviously we're thankful for how successful it was. We love that the people showed out for it, that they wanted it, right? But the Crooked Moon was born, like most things are, most of the works we've done so far was born of a campaign we played at the table, Edge of Midnight, our least popular campaign, or one of them, one of our least popular campaigns, right? And we said, well, you know what? We love folk horror, and we think that there's a gap there. And so we want to put that out, right? And what was incredibly important to nail with the Crooked Moon is what is the thing that's difficult about this, right? For somebody to what actually is the gap that somebody can't fulfill, right? And it's how do you articulate folk horror, right? That's what we have to solve for. That's what we have to deliver. But that's not the point of this, right? What we have to try and solve for is all these other handholds of how do you take an adventure into the stars, and to do that, you have to build a galaxy. You just absolutely have to fill out this space so people can live, they can breathe in it, they can do what they want, you know. And so that's kind of why we've always made products for ourselves. We make the things that we want to play. We make the things that are born of our special interests. And at the end of the day, we just hope that, you know, when it comes out, we hope that everybody loves the things that we love.
And here's what I'll say, right? Like, it's a lot. Obviously, it's a giant, massive undertaking. But a wise man once said, you know, we're never scared.
A very wise man.
Never scared.
When does the Kickstarter end? How much time do people have left?
We are ending the Kickstarter campaign on June 3rd at 11:59 p.m. Eastern. So basically at midnight, the campaign ends. We will be doing an all-day stream. So we'll be streaming. We'll be doing one last rally for the end of the Kickstarter on June 3rd, trying to make this thing as big as we possibly can and hit all of our stretch goals. There's a lot of really cool stretch goals coming up.
And that means you can still back the Kickstarter right now. And there's going to be stuff that is Kickstarter exclusive that is going away after June 3rd. So if anyone's interested in locking that in, especially their name in the book, they'll have to back before the Kickstarter ends.
And that's all at neonrpg.com. Help us hit those stretch goals and get some really cool stuff. And freebies.